The creation of money told in a story entitled The Recollections of Pine Gulch. If you were asked this simple question, what is money? Could you answer it with the correct answer? Money is anything that is generally acceptable in the exchange for goods and services. Many people think that money is just cash, coins, and checks. You will learn in this lesson through a tale of a Western story what money is and how money is created in an economy. Recollections of Pine Gulch takes place during the period of time from 1840 to 1870. The town of Pine Gulch was located 65 miles northeast of San Francisco. You know how most Western stories are written from the point of view of the bad guy or the sheriff in town? Well, this story is written from the point of view of a businessman. His name is Gus Mailer. Gus Mailer is the author of the book and the saloon keeper in Pine Gulch. What do you think was used as money during this period of time, 1840 to 1870? Remember, this is the California gold rush. Gold dust or gold nuggets. Why was gold dust or gold nuggets used as money in Pine Gulch? Because it was generally acceptable in the exchange for goods and services. You just learned this earlier, didn't you? Whenever the townspeople went to the blacksmith, the bathhouse, the saloon, or the dentist, how did they pay? With gold dust or gold nuggets. Early every morning, many of the town folks would get onto their horses, pulling their mules behind them, and ride out of town. Where do you think they were headed? They were headed to the hills to pan for gold dust. Over the years, the miners had set up elaborate mining equipment. After a hard day's work sifting or digging to get as much gold dust or gold nuggets as they could, the miners would pack up their mules, get on their horses, and ride back into Pine Gulch. However, frequently on their way back into town, there were some cowboys hiding behind boulders waiting for the miners. These bandits wanted to steal the miners' gold dust. The bandits would take out their six-shooters, stick them into the backs of the miners, and say, "Give me all your gold dust or I'll blow you away." After being robbed, the miners would ride into town empty-handed. This made the miners furious. So one day, after being robbed for the last time, the miners rode back into town, took out their six-shooters, shot off a few rounds to get people's attention. The townspeople came running out when they heard the commotion. When everyone was out onto the streets, the miners yelled out, "We're going to have a town meeting." The townspeople yelled back, "Where?" The miners replied, "We're going to have a meeting where we always have a town meeting, at the saloon." Once inside the saloon, the miners and townspeople began talking about how they were always being robbed and how they needed to find someone to be the guarder of the gold dust. They talked about it for a while and finally came up with someone who they thought would be the perfect person to guard the gold dust. They all agreed upon Slim. Slim was 6 foot 4 inches tall, weighed 240 pounds, and was the fastest draw in the territory. People figured if Slim were guarding the gold dust, no one would mess with him. So they asked him, "Slim, would you like to be the guarder of gold dust?" Slim answered their question with a question of his own. "How much are you going to pay me?" The townspeople did some heavy thinking, and after about 5 minutes, they told Slim they would pay him 1% of all the gold dust he'd be guarding each month. Slim asked another important question. "How much gold dust on average will I be guarding per month?" The townspeople did some more thinking and told Slim he'd be guarding about $20,000 worth of gold dust on average per month. Slim did some quick calculations and figured he'd be making about $200 a month. Remember, this was long before graphing calculators ever came out. Anyway, Slim told the townspeople that gold mining hadn't been going all that well for him and that he would become their garner of gold dust. He did tell them, though, that they would have to give him a few days. He had to shut down his mining operations. He had to buy a house in town. He had to put bars on the windows and doors. He had to dig a hole underneath the floorboards to store the gold dust. Most importantly, he had to put his name on the business. Slim's. Slim was ready to start collecting and storing the townspeople's gold dust. The townspeople started coming in and depositing their gold dust with Slim. How would Slim record this transaction on his books? If you've never had an accounting course, I'm going to take 2 minutes to teach you accounting. If you can remember that assets are what you own and liabilities are what you owe, then you know half of accounting. The other half of accounting is to understand that accountants are very nervous people. They are scared to death of ever making a mistake. That's why when accountants record numbers in their books, they always have to write things down twice. So at the end of the month, when they total both the columns and the columns equal, they know they haven't made a mistake. Let's make sure you understood accounting. This is an accounting ledger. On the left side of the ledger is where assets are recorded. On the right side of the ledger is where liabilities are recorded. Again, if you can remember that assets are what you own and liabilities are what you owe, you know half of accounting. The other half of accounting is to know that accountants are very nervous people. They always write down things twice. If they put a +1 on the asset side, they must put a +1 on the liability side. Are there any questions about accounting? Well, if anyone ever asks you if you've ever taken an accounting course, you can tell them that you have. Anyway, back to the story of the Recollections of Pine Gulch. The townspeople come into Slim's and deposit a total of $10,000 worth of gold dust. Where would Slim record this deposit on his books? On the asset side or the liability side? If you said he would record the $10,000 worth of gold dust on the liability side or on both sides, you are wrong. Who is now in possession of the gold dust? Slim or the townspeople? Slim is. Back then, whoever was in possession of it owned it. Slim is now in possession of the gold dust, so he records it as an asset on his books. $10,000 of gold dust. Do both sides equal? No. Are they supposed to equal? Yes. Slim has to give the townspeople something in return for their gold dust. What does he give them in return? Slim gives the townspeople $10,000 worth of receipts. In other words, Slim owes them $10,000. Slim records the $10,000 worth of receipts on the liability side. Do both sides equal? Yes. Things are going along great for Slim. Anytime someone wants some gold dust, all they have to do is go over to Slim's and exchange some receipts for gold dust. This is now chapter 10 in the book. It is late at night. Oops. It is late at night. There's a poker game going on at the saloon. A cowboy has a good hand and wants to match the pot, but he doesn't have any gold dust. Where does he have to go to get the gold dust? Slim's. The drunk cowboy leaves the saloon and staggers over to Slim's. The drunk cowboy knocks on Slim's door.
Slim, get up. I need some gold dust.
Slim slowly gets out of bed, goes to the door, opens it, and there is Jeb, the drunk cowboy, reeking of alcohol. Slim says, "How can I help you, Jeb?" Jeb slurs his words, says,
"Slim, there's a poker game going on down at the saloon, and I have a good hand, but I don't have any gold dust to match the pot. Can you give me some gold dust?"
Slim asks Jeb how much he needs, takes Jeb's receipts, gets him his gold dust, and when Jeb finally leaves, Slim records the transactions on his books. Slim tries to go back to sleep, but can't. His mind is racing, thinking about how inconvenient it is for the townspeople to always come to see him whenever they need gold dust. He thinks this is not only inconvenient for them, but also inconvenient for him. The very next morning, Slim walks out onto the streets of Pine Gulch, takes out his six-shooter, shoots off a few rounds. The townspeople come running out of their homes, and Slim yells out, "We're going to have a town meeting." The townspeople yell back, "Where?" Slim shakes his head and says,
"Where do we always have our town meetings? At the saloon."
Once inside the saloon, Slim quiets the crowd by pounding his pistol handle on the bar. He says,
"You know how every time you need any gold dust, you come to me whenever you want 24 hours a day? Well, this is very inconvenient for both you and for me, so I've come up with an idea to solve this problem. I'm going to ride out of town for a few days, but I promise you I'll be back. So if you need any gold dust to cover your purchases during the next few days I'm gone, let's exchange some of your receipts for your gold dust so you can make those purchases." Even though they didn't know where Slim was going, the townspeople trusted Slim. They exchanged some of their receipts for gold dust. Slim recorded the transaction on his books, and the very next morning, Slim gets on his horse and rides 65 miles south-southeast into San Francisco. He hitches his horse to the hitching post. He walks into a stationery store. While in there, he finds the wildest green paper, and he makes sure that he buys up all of the wildest green paper. While still walking around in there, he finds the wildest pink ink, and he makes sure he buys up all of the wildest pink ink. Slim gets back on his horse and rides 65 miles north-northwest into Pine Gulch. As he rides into Pine Gulch, he takes out his six-shooter, shoots off a few rounds. The townspeople come running out. Slim says, "We're going to have a town meeting." The townspeople say, "Where?" Slim thinks to himself, "Are these people a bunch of idiots or what?" When everyone is inside the saloon, Slim starts the meeting. "I've been thinking about this gold dust thing for a while and figured how inconvenient it is for everyone, so I came up with a plan. In the last few days, I rode into San Francisco, went into a stationery store, and bought up all the wildest green paper and all the wildest pink ink in the store. What I did is I took the wildest green paper and the wildest pink ink, and I made some new receipts. Since you know I bought up all of the wildest green paper and all of the wildest pink ink, you know these receipts are mine. What I'd like to do is exchange all of your old receipts with these new receipts that are printed on the wildest green paper with the wildest pink ink. So now when you go to the blacksmith, you go to the bathhouse, you go to the saloon, or you go to the dentist, you can pay with these new receipts rather than with gold dust." The townspeople thought about it for a while and told Slim that they too thought it was more convenient than always having to go to him for gold dust all the time. So Slim did the exchange. He exchanged all of the old receipts with newer receipts printed on the wildest green paper with the wildest pink ink. How would Slim record this transaction on his books? He took all of the old receipts
and exchanged them for the new receipts printed on the wildest green paper with the wildest pink ink. The $10,000 of new receipts goes on the liability side because he exchanged the receipts. Now what is considered to be money in Pine Gulch? Wildest green paper with the wildest pink ink. Why is this considered to be money in Pine Gulch? Because it is now generally acceptable in the exchange for goods and services. Didn't you learn this already? Slim cut and printed the receipts and put them into denominations of $1, $5, $10, $20. Look familiar? He did cut the receipts a little too large, though, so townspeople had to carry their receipts in little sacks thrown over their backs. You know how there's a rainy season in Northern California? Well, when the townspeople carried their receipts over their backs, the rain caused the green dye to run down their backs. By the way, have you ever heard the term greenbacks? Well, this is where the term comes from. For 2 years, things are going along well in Pine Gulch. People, when they went to the livery stable, went to the blacksmith, or went to the general store, they paid with the new receipts printed on the wildest green paper with the wildest pink ink. Rarely did they ever have to stop at Slim's other than to deposit some gold dust or maybe take some out if they were going out of town. One night at 2 o'clock in the morning, Slim is at Gus Mailer's saloon, the author of the book, sipping on a glass of sarsaparilla. Now, you don't think a cowboy's drinking a non-alcoholic drink like sarsaparilla. Why do you think Slim wasn't drinking the hard stuff? Even Slim knew townspeople trusted him to be alert enough to guard the gold dust. Gus Mailer comes over to Slim and asks Slim if he would like a free glass of sarsaparilla. Slim is taken back by this because he knows that Gus never gives anything away for free. However, Slim is still thirsty and says to Gus he'll have another one. Gus brings the glass of sarsaparilla to Slim and says, "Hey, Slim, I was wondering if you could do me a favor." Slim knew there was a catch to the free glass of sarsaparilla. Slim says to Gus, "How can I help you?" Gus says, "I want to expand my saloon, increase my stock of liquor, and bring in some dancing girls from San Francisco, but I don't have any gold dust to do this. Can I borrow some gold dust from you?" Slim says, "Gus, I would really like to help you out, but any extra gold dust that I've accumulated, I bought 40 acres outside of town and bought a few horses. I don't have any extra gold dust to give you, Gus." Gus, the bar owner and author of the book, disgustingly walks away from Slim. Here he's given Slim a free glass of sarsaparilla and hasn't gotten anything in return. As Gus walks away, Slim begins to think. He says, "Gus, come back here. I have an idea." "How much do you need, Gus?" Gus tells Slim he needs about $5,000. Slim says to Gus, "Rarely does anyone come in for gold dust anymore. Why don't I just sign out $5,000 worth of receipts and you could pay me back in 6 months?" Gus says to Slim, "We can't do that. I don't have any gold dust to give you for the $5,000 worth of receipts." Slim says, "Trust me. Meet me in my office at 9 a.m. tomorrow morning." Gus reluctantly agrees to meet Slim the very next morning. The very next morning, Gus walks into Slim's office. Slim has $5,000 worth of receipts waiting for Gus. As Gus goes to grab the $5,000 worth of receipts, Slim slaps his hand over the receipts, says, "Not so fast, Gus." Slim opens his top desk drawer and pulls out a piece of paper for Gus to sign. It states, "I, Gus, owe Slim $5,000 plus $1,000 interest payable in 6 months." Gus is taken back by this. He quickly figures that $1,000 interest on a $5,000 loan payable in 6 months is 40% rate of return Slim is going to earn off of Gus. Gus knows he needs the money to expand his saloon, so he reluctantly signs his name, Gus. As Gus walks out onto the streets of Pine Gulch, what has happened to the amount of money in Pine Gulch? Well, you don't know until you look at the books. That's why I had to teach you accounting. How would Slim record this transaction with Gus on his books? First, where would Slim record the additional $5,000 worth of receipts that he gave to Gus? On the asset side or the liability side? On the liability side. For a total of $15,000 worth of outstanding receipts on the liability side. Do both sides equal? No. Should they equal? Yes. Slim is in possession of the contract, the loan document of $5,000. We will leave the $1,000 interest out of the equation until it is paid back by Gus. The $5,000 loan is recorded on the asset side for a total of $15,000. Both sides are equal now. Again, as Gus walks out onto the streets of Pine Gulch, what has happened to the amount of money in Pine Gulch? It has gone up by $5,000. Remember, the receipts are now money. There is now more money in Pine Gulch. Remember this important concept. When a bank makes a loan, the money supply increases. Gus goes back with the $5,000 worth of receipts and expands his saloon, increases his stock of liquor, and brings in some dancing girls from San Francisco. 6 months later to the day, Gus walks back into Slim's office with $6,000 worth of receipts. This is now chapter 23 in the book. Gus enters Slim's office and throws the $6,000 onto Slim's desk. Slim quickly counts to make sure the $6,000 is all there. Slim takes the contract out of his top desk drawer and says to Gus, "Let me mark this contract paid in full." As Slim goes to mark the contract paid in full, Gus rips the contract from Slim and says, "You know, Slim, I never thought this negotiation was legal. I didn't have any gold dust to give you for these receipts, and I don't want anyone to know about this." Right in front of Slim's eyes, Gus takes the contract and rips it in half. Rips it in half again, rips it in half again, shreds it, throws it up in the air, and it all settles on the ground in front of Slim. Slim, right in front of Gus, recounts the $6,000 worth of receipts. Looking Gus straight in the eyes, Slim takes the receipts and rips them in half. Rips them in half again, rips them in half again, shreds them, throws them up in the air. All the torn receipts settle on the ground in front of Gus. Gus and Slim think the other has gone crazy. Has either of them gone crazy? Well, you don't know until you look at the books. That's why I had to teach you accounting. How would Slim record this transaction on his books? After Slim shredded the $6,000 worth of receipts, the outstanding receipts in Pine Gulch have gone down by $6,000 for a total of $9,000 worth of receipts. The loan of $5,000 has been repaid for total assets equaling $10,000. Do both sides equal? No. Should they equal? Yes. Now I'm going to have to teach you advanced accounting. In advanced accounting, there is a liability called owner's equity, which is the claim the owner has on the business. Slim now has a $1,000 claim on the business. This is recorded on the liability side of the ledger. This makes the total liabilities $10,000. Do both sides equal? Yes. Do you think Slim was happy now that he owns $1,000 of the $10,000 worth of gold dust? That is Slim's claim to the $10,000 worth of gold dust. Oh yeah, the very next day, Slim puts his sign outside his business. Easy term loans. Then he puts up another sign. Visit San Francisco, no payments till after Christmas. He puts up another sign. Buy your horse today, low payments. Remember how Slim was providing 24-hour service? He puts up another sign. No longer open 24 hours. Open 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. Slim started the very first banking system. For the next couple of years, everything is going along great in Pine Gulch. Slim's business is booming as people are depositing gold dust and borrowing from Slim for building houses to buying horses. This is now chapter 31 in the book. This guy rides into town. 6'9" tall, 280 pounds. He takes out his gun, shoots out the 2 O's on the saloon sign. The townspeople hear the noise and come running out. Big Bart, that's his name, says,
I really like this town of Pine Gulch. Who has the best job in this town?
Well, everybody says, well, Slim has the best job in town. Big Bart says,
oh yeah? Why does Slim have the best job in this town?
And everybody says, well, he's the guarder of the gold dust. Big Bart says,
oh yeah? Why does Slim guard the gold dust?
The townspeople say, because he's the biggest guy in town and the fastest draw in the territory. Big Bart says,
oh yeah?
Well, this is now chapter 38 at the end of the book. It's Saturday, high noon. Slim and Big Bart go back to back, walk 10 paces in the opposite direction. They both turn around. They both shoot. Slim goes down. The bullet hits Slim right in the kneecap. The doc comes running out and drags Slim back to Slim's office. As Doc lays Slim on his desk, they hear a commotion going outside of Slim's front door. Slim tells Doc,
Doc, go see what's going on.
Doc goes to see what's going on and comes back. The doc says to Slim, the townspeople have come to get their gold dust. Slim knows he's in trouble. By the end of the book, Slim's account looks like this. Over the years, the townspeople had deposited a total of $30,000 worth of gold dust with Slim. Over the years, he had made loans worth a total of $100,000. Because he was issuing loans, there were $110,000 worth of receipts in the townspeople's hands. And because people had repaid some of their loans over the years, Slim now had a claim on the business for $20,000. When townspeople have $110,000 worth of receipts and there is only $30,000 worth of gold dust, and the townspeople want their gold dust in exchange for their receipts, you can see why Slim is in trouble. Slim tells the doc,
go out and tell the townspeople I'm injured. Give me a little sympathy. Tell them I promise I will give them their gold dust on Monday.
The doc goes out and talks to the town people and comes back and tells Slim, the townspeople say they're going to show up really, really early on Monday morning. This is the end of the book. I don't really agree with what Slim does at the end of the book, but I understand why he did what he did. Late Sunday night, Slim packed the $30,000 worth of gold dust into his saddlebags and rode out of town. Some people might think what Slim did was dishonest. However, all Slim was trying to do was solve a problem. He figured if there was $110,000 worth of receipts and only $30,000 worth of gold dust, that there'd be huge fights among the townspeople on who got the gold dust. Another reason was that he worked hard over the years to obtain a claim on the business. Slim owned $20,000 of the $30,000 worth of gold dust. The third reason is the most important reason. Slim figured if the townspeople had $110,000 worth of receipts and he only had $30,000 worth of gold dust to give them, then they would hang him. So he rode out of town with the gold dust. The two morals of the story are these. When a bank makes a loan, the money supply increases. Remember when Slim gave Gus a loan and Gus walked out onto the streets of Pine Gulch, the money supply increases. When loans are repaid, the money supply decreases. When Gus repaid the $6,000 loan to Slim, they both shredded up the $6,000 worth of receipts and the loan. And as you recall from the books, the money supply decreases. So when loans are repaid to banks, the money supply decreases. This is the end of the story. The story was told by economics professor Don Wells from the University of Arizona, and this story is dedicated to Professor Don Wells.